Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to An Author's Kiss right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest is Vanessa Mariah.
Hello.
Hi there. And
Hi.
if a kid were president, I probably think in a lot of ways they'll have a great deal more common sense than we would. And a complete life change here. And you're a writer, you're a creator, an entrepreneur, a hope seeker. I like that very much. Vanessa Mariah is a children's author of books to inspire all ages to think beyond the reality set in front of them. Her creative stories spark imagination and help young readers to see hope for their future. You and your children will enjoy reading her novels. And her first novel is If a Kid Were President. And I think that, as I've said, we're looking at our kids today, and I think that we're doing them an injustice, that we should actually listen to them a great deal more, because our kids are very, very savvy, aren't they? They
They are,
seem
yes.
they're indigo kids. They seem to have a lot more common sense than we do, and rationality, and maybe they just haven't got stuck into the emotion yet. But I really do think that looking at a great deal of our kids today, there's hope for tomorrow, isn't there?
There definitely is. I think we don't give our kids enough credit. And sometimes I feel like we need to take a step back and ask them how
Mm.
they're doing, how they're feeling, and maybe they'll give us some wisdom.
And the thing is, asking them, if the way kids have been brought up, my era, children should be seen and not heard, and you're too young to understand, or when you get older, and we do a disservice to our children because they're incredibly inquisitive, they're very logical and rational, but they also, in their beautiful imagination, are able to see things that we have shut off ourselves as adults.
Right.
So really listening to them is not only beneficial to them, but to us as well.
Correct. I totally 1,000% agree. I think that a lot of times kids have, such a big imagination, but the underlying factor in that imagination is something that is actually plausible and actually feasible into our world. And that's part of the reason why I wrote this story, to tie in that imagination piece and the piece that, we can actually collaboratively together do for our world and our um, families and any circles that we have.
They've got a way of seeing things, in a different way, in a different point of view. And I feel as adults, we overcomplicate things. The youngest person I've ever had on the network is a young girl. She was 10, and she'd written a book, 365 Days of Gratitude with a Positive Attitude. And, it's like, if you're doing something that makes you unhappy, stop. Just go and find something to make you happy. And it's like, it's so simple, but why do we have to complicate things so much?
I think that adults tend to rationalize, their thinking and their understanding. And a lot of times we don't like change, right? And we get
Mm,
comfortable in our ways, even if they're unhealthy habits. So for a child to pinpoint something that we already know and almost give confirmation, I think it just takes an adult time to come into agreement with that because they're already running from that truth.
yeah.
Even though it's so simple, um, I think, especially now that a lot of parents have had some time to bunker down with their little ones and uh, learn with them, let's see how they are at school. Everybody's making different adjustments. It's almost like a refresher for every single person. You're refreshing your quality time with your family. You're really sitting down and actually getting away from social media or
Mm.
TV, because I think a lot of during the quarantine, a lot of people got sick of Netflix. They got tired of social media, like they're just overwhelmed because that's all they had.
Mhm.
But putting that aside, open their eyes to see, hey, my child has grown. My child's really wise. Maybe I should listen to them. And, part of if a kid were president, I wanted to showcase some of those things that kids see in the news, some of the world issues that they see, and they're not ignoring them. They understand what they mean. I think we don't give our kids enough credit that they understand what is happening with global warming. They understand what's happening with, you know, people not being kind to one another. They understand what's happening with not having quality time, being consumed with so much media. And this perspective kind of opens up the child, or allows the child to see that they're heard and they can dream and can imagine a world where people get along and the world is being taken care of and everybody is treating each other with kindness.
And understanding they're a part of the equation.
Hmm.
That it's not waiting for everyone to do it for them, that they're empowered to do it for themselves. How many kids have we seen right now during this pandemic step into kindness?
Right,
Whether it's a banner or raising money or just doing something for their community, they realize people are hurting and they want to
right.
be a part of it. And that kindness and caring that comes from the heart is the place that we should be living from as
Mhm.
adults. And very often it's our children that remind us to kind of get back into heart because we're inclined to run around in our heads, the what if, the academic, the logical, the rational, and we don't incorporate the heart and the soul into it. We're not getting the whole picture, and our
Right,
kids are coming from the heart and soul. Right. So, listen to them because they really will ignite something inside of you.
definitely. Yeah, I think it's super important to have that childlike spirit because if you really think about it, when you are a child, you really worry less. You know
Mm,
you're going to be taken care of and provided for. You know that, your family is around to be supportive for any situation or any dream that you have. Some children's childhoods are a little bit more complex than others, but the basic needs, most children believe that those are going to be met unless otherwise told.
mhm. We when we're not looking at children from dysfunctional families or foster care children, because that's a totally different style where we do not invest or nurture our children enough. They're just kind of really shoved from one to the other.
Right.
And, this, I've done quite a number of shows on that on the Forgotten Children series, and it's heartbreaking. It's also, I see so much in adults when they're going through their process of their change in life, it is to realize how either abused or neglected or misused their child was within them, and they're still healing that child.
Right. Right.
So if we could see our inner child through our children's eyes, as you say, go back into play, you silly buggers,
Hmm.
allowing ourselves to be that child again, in many, many ways, we're healing our inner child.
Correct. I 1,000% agree with that. And you're you're correct as far as like everybody goes through hurt. Nobody's
Mm,
life is perfect. And having a kid is or a child isn't going to fix those things, but it can salvage and heal a lot of those areas. You can also give your child the things that you didn't have
mm,
and start a new, generational line of I made it this far, so I expect my child to go to the next level. And then you just kind of build on that. But you can't do that unless you're, like you said, nurturing your own
mm.
children.
Yeah. Our children, I think, are born into a different energy frame, a different frequency. We
Right.
call very often, we refer to them as the Indigo Kids because they're born with so much wisdom,
Hmm.
so much more ability. I mean, put them in front of a computer. I love seeing these programs of children working with the elderly to help them use their tablets. And there's that great picture of a kid, must be about 4 years of old, going, Grandma, you have to switch the button on. You know, I, yet they have this innate ability to see things because I don't know if they're wired differently or it's just that they're such sponges when they're young that they
Right.
just absorb everything. So it's very, very imperative that we give them the right atmosphere in which to grow in while they're absorbing everything around them.
No, definitely. I can almost picture a world where children are innovators, right? They're super
Mm,
creative. I mean, look at every all these kids that are less than 4 years old are making TikTok videos and they're actually sending messages. Those things are going viral. With the internet, their message can be sent from all around the world.
mhm,
Can you imagine taking that innovative and creative child and placing them to do some problem solving? For
mm,
example, if there's a scientist trying to figure out the best solution to grow community gardens around areas that are heavily populated with the homeless, ask a child for their ideas. Who's
yes,
to say that they don't have great ideas? They actually do.
yes,
And, placing them in even like the medical field, like it's not going to hurt anybody for asking a child what they think for an hour.
mm,
And those little bits and pieces of what a child says are going to start the creative juices within the adults and probably come up with better solutions than we're doing right now. So,
yeah. It's a different perspective of where they see because we've got caught up in the emotional and societal expectations of who we should be.
mhm,
And we've lost ourselves along the way as adults because we're trying to fit into a mold. And of course, social media and society as a whole has dictated how important we are by our economics, so by our shape and size, by our intellect. And when you look at children, they completely go by the vibe of a person, by the heart and soul of a person.
right.
You know, they're not born racist, they're created that way. They
Mhm,
just, it's when you see different animal species coming together, they don't see the difference. They just feel each other's heart.
right. Yeah. I mean, if you think about one of my favorite excuse me, quotes is by Coco Chanel, and she says, "Be who you are, not who the world wants you to be."
Yeah.
And I believe that children know that that's who they are. They're completely honest. I mean,
Mm.
if you ask a child the way an outfit looks or, how your hair looks, they're going to tell you the truth.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes the truth hurts. But that's because they're coming from, like you said, a pure heart.
Hmm.
And they still have that basis of they're becoming who they are, not who the world has told them to be. And I think that if we allot the space and the time to let those ideas run a little bit more freely and stop trying to put them in a box like you
Mm.
mentioned, there can be a lot more change in this world. And I think it's more necessary now than ever because our world is heading down a destructive path.
Mm.
I know we've gone through a lot in the past. We have a huge history of, you know, different economic downturns, and we have had pandemics, and we've had, hate crimes and things like that. But I think right now the world is really, really hurting. And I don't think if we don't make a change now, it can get any better. And we're the creators of our future. Our
Mm.
kids are those creators of our future. And so if they're not being fed the right things and they're being neglected, then the only outcome that you can really expect in the end is a neglected world.
Yes. We're looking at, the seeding of the possibilities, the water and the nurture of them. It has been so much in the past of dictating how our children should be. Now, they go into kindergarten and they're still allowed to kind of play and they're learning a little structure. Then into one, two, three, and up they go, and it's like categorize.
Mhm.
Box them, restrict them. Children that are flamboyant, suppressed. And this is so wrong because we should be watering those
Right,
beautiful seeds and nurturing them because they are the solution makers for tomorrow. They are the lawmakers and deciders of tomorrow. And the more we empower them into believing in possibilities,
right,
opportunities, that anything can happen, but from the moral compass of always staying in heart and soul, we are going to have such a more fruitful society in the future. but we really need to be there for our kids now.
We do. I 1000% agree. We do. And I think it's time for us to wake up. I think there isn't any more time left
Yeah.
to contemplate or question what to do next. Now is time to really focus on the future, and that's our little ones.
Mm. But you were saying like, for a lot of people that they've got such respect for teachers now that they've been homeschooling, and it has brought about, people have been put down for being garbage people, truck drivers, or, working in the grocery stores, or even the nurses. And it's always, kind of been demeaned in many ways. And they
Right.
have been our heroes. And,
Hmm.
it's telling children that it doesn't matter what your job is, the triangle or the soloist, it doesn't matter. It's do it with heart, do it with conviction, and do it because it makes a difference. And it's not the stigma of what you do, it's the enthusiasm and the empowerment of what you do and how it helps others. And children are just so eager to help, aren't they?
They definitely are. And I'm glad that you said that, because if a kid were president, definitely focuses on everybody's role is important.
Mhm.
Everybody, plays a factor in making the world go round. And you're right, we do need to teach our kids the importance of a garbage man. If there wasn't a garbage man, we would be living in our own
A
filth, and
stench, a
that's
stench.
horrible, right?
Yes.
If there weren't grocery workers, who would help restock the shelves? If there weren't farmers, who
Mhm.
would produce the food that we eat? Like, there's a cycle that goes on. And I think when that cycle is taught early on and the respect factor is taught early on,
Mm.
I was raised to greet everybody from the janitor to the CEO the exact same way, and, judge them by their character.
Yeah.
If that isn't taught early on, it's going to really burden and hinder that child moving forward. It's going to cause them pain, and then they're going to get confused later on when they're being convicted for thinking a certain way.
Mm. Mm.
Why want to do that to your child?
Right.
Most parents, most, and I'm not just saying parents. I think it takes a village to raise a
Yes.
child. That's mentors, that's teachers, that's aunts, uncles, grandparents. So everybody knows a child, and they're impacting that child in their life, if you're a parent or not.
Mm.
The things that we're feeding those children are going to affect the way they grow up. So, would you rather have that positive impact and not hinder their growth, and then not have them go through years of therapy when they're older trying to
Mhm.
fix those things?
Yeah.
Most people would say, I want to be a positive impact. I know we're human and we make mistakes, and, certain words slip out. But if you can have the control over what you're feeding that child, then you can stop that broken cycle. Most parents don't want their kids to go through therapy. Most, because I mean, your child is a product of you.
Yeah.
If you want to be, praised and seen as, oh, the highest level of, you know you're working you're at work, you're reaching those goals, you're, in the gym, you're reaching those goals. The same thing with a parent. Those goals need to be achieved, and that's what you want to be praised for. But if your child is in therapy for half of their life,
Mhm.
that's going to come back and hit you. So I think it's really important to feed that into our kids, as you said.
It's also, as adults, we've learned to hold grudges,
Hmm.
and we've learned to pass judgment on people and not forgive. And if we teach our children it's okay to have a disagreement or fight over a toy, but it's how far do you take it, apologize to each other and let it go. And
Right.
if we could teach that to our children young, they won't be carrying all this resentment that so many adults carry. And you ask them, really, where does it come from? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember what they did. I just know I don't like them anymore. And it's
Right.
like, you're letting, the pimple become a volcanic eruption, you know.
Exactly. That is a great analogy. Yeah, I mean, I really think like I said, boils down to who you are as a person. Obviously, right now, everybody's waking up and they understand that a change needs to happen.
Mhm.
Whether your beliefs differ from another person or not, we all know we don't want to be in this pandemic any longer.
Mhm.
We all know we don't want to see our loved ones, sick and dying from something so something you can't see.
Yeah,
Um,
hidden enemy. Hmm.
right. So, the virus doesn't care what color
Nope.
skin you have. It doesn't care if you're male, female. It doesn't care your sexual orientation, your economic status. Every single individual was affected by this. And that in itself should show that we are all human at the
Mm.
end of the day.
All
And if you
vulnerable.
can't, exactly. And if you can't, come to grips with that, then I don't really know if you are a human.
Right.
Um, so I think once you understand we all have a heart, we all are human, take those baby steps and start to have that childlike spirit. This book is for all ages. I
Mm.
didn't put a cap on any age because I think it does spark those necessary conversations. It's going to spark a conversation and questions that your child's going to ask. Oh, why is our world, full of trash? Why don't we recycle? Can we
Mm.
recycle? And then you're going to be like, yeah, why not? Why don't we do that? We can try it. We're at
Right.
home. There's different experiments we can do, and it's going to create a bonding moment with them. And it's going to, I think, in the end, change you too as a person.
Oh, um, I've interviewed an awful lot of children's authors, and it's one of my pleasures. And the grandparent or the aunt or the uncle or the parents reading to their children or having their children read to them, depending what it is how much they learn.
Hmm.
Because it resets them.
Right.
And it's like, "Oh, gosh, I've made this, mountain out of a molehill, and really, I'm teaching my children to resolve things while I'm busy, you know, doing the opposite. And it's a wonderful reset to people. And the remember the show, the kids say the darndest things,
Yes.
and they do, and sometimes they're hilarious. When you do look on social media where you show a kid a rotary phone or a fax machine, their explanation as to what it is hilarious. And it makes me feel very old. But it just shows, that imagination. I think one of the reasons why adults go so wrong is they forget to be imaginative, they forget to be creative, and they also shut down their hearts. Somewhere along the line, they've
Mhm.
been hurt and they shut down their hearts. If you
Right.
can't open your heart, you can't feel your wisdom, your knowingness, you can't really find your creativity because that heart needs to be ignited. And a child comes from the heart, don't they?
They
Everything
too.
led from the heart with them.
I also believe a child can warm up the coldest heart.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't, yeah. So
yeah.
I
Just like
think
puppy dogs and kids, right? You can't, they can't help, they can't help but make you
exactly.
smile. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And when, there was a young boy rescuing a whole load of dogs, and somebody else raising money for the homeless. And this is not something the parents told them to do. They decided it needed to be done.
Hmm.
And just asked the parents to help them, and they're convict weren't doing it for social media likes, weren't doing it for fame and fortune, were just doing it because they felt it needed to be done. And we need to
Yep.
encourage that behavior and support it.
We do. We do. That reminds me of another story. There was a little boy who there was a huge pothole in front of his grandmother's house. And every time they would drive, they would hit that pothole and it would damage the car or you know, it just was an unpleasant ride home. So one day he just got a bucket and some dirt and he filled the pothole. And then he continued to go on throughout the streets of his neighborhood and fill the potholes. And like you said, he no one asked him to do that.
Right.
He just knew it needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ingenuity.
exactly, we all have that
Yeah.
in us. We mean we were all children.
Yeah. But we're
So
inclined to wait for someone else to do it, aren't we? Right?
yes,
As adults, it's like, well, that's somebody else's department. That's got nothing to do with me. Well, is
mhm,
your tire going over that pothole? You know,
exactly. Is it
causing
damaging
damage
your
to your car.
car?
Exactly.
Is it
So,
costing you money?
yeah. Hello. So why are we always waiting? We point fingers, government, this, that, etc. There's fingers pointing back at you. Where's your accountability? What are you going to do about it? And we can set such an example to our children,
Right.
by saying, okay, we're going to save up 10% of your pocket money for a month, and then we're going to go and invest that in something for somebody else.
Hmm.
And, because that teaches a child that compassion and that sharing. And it's a lesson for the adults, but it's a way of empowering the children on gratitude and on giving, because that's what we need for each other, isn't that givingness?
We do. We do. And this is perfect time. I mean, it's the holiday season.
Hmm.
Although we've all had a pretty rough year, I think it's kind of amazing that during the holiday times, and it doesn't, I mean, a lot of people celebrate different holidays, but around the end of the year, almost everybody has a little bit more of that kindness in their
Mm.
heart, or they allow that kindness to show. They allow that gratitude to show. They allow giving to others to show. If we can just grasp that and move it throughout the rest of the year, or even baby steps, our world can change. And, like I said, if a kid were present is a great holiday gift. Um,
Yes, definitely.
to Yeah, so
And
it's a great gift,
not just for the kid, for the whole
not
family.
for the whole family,
Yeah,
because it's going to spark those
yeah,
conversations, like I mentioned before, and maybe even start a new project in the house.
right, exactly.
So,
But you hit on something very big there, conversation.
mhm.
It used to be, that you didn't have conversations with your children, you just told them what to do. Oh, because I said so. That never went down in my family. We had round table and we had conversations, however uncomfortable they may be. You filtered the answer according to the age and what they needed to know, but they were always encouraged to ask the questions and to speak what they've seen and what they've heard or what they wanted to know, to have that voice. And yes, they hit that stage where they become extremely opinionated and they know everything and you know nothing, but that's just part of being a kid, right? But conversation is something that we must have with our children, because that gives them permission to have a voice.
Yes, and it also teaches very important life skills, communication
Mm.
skills. It teaches them how to debate. It teaches them how to ask big questions and not be afraid to ask questions, and how to ask questions when they don't know the answer to something, and give them the space to figure it out or become curious again. If
Mm.
you have all of those things as an adult and you learn them early on, life will be so much easier going forward, whether that's in education or relationships, with friends, relationships with, a significant other, teachers, communicating in business, negotiating. All of that stems from allowing them to a ask and express themselves, like you said, and have the round table of conversation at home.
The confidence.
Hmm.
I remember my son talked me into having a candy shop in the house. So instead of kids going to the store, they could come and buy from him, and he marked it up, you know. And the hilarious thing is that, we were buying the stuff and he would sell, but he would even sell to his father for his sister because the ingenuity was there at a marked up price. So already I knew there was an entrepreneur there, right? This is somebody that has a grasp of business. And our children tell us very, very early in life what their aptitudes are, what they're capable of doing. And if
Right.
we can really nurture that and help them expand that, they may want to be an astronaut one day, a fireman the next day, something else another day, but you're going to see the common denominator of their skills.
Hmm.
And then help them direct those skills into something that can be fruitful for their future.
Definitely. I agree. We need to be better for our kids. At
Yes,
the end of the
yes.
day, we just need to be better.
We've also got to realize we're custodians of our children. We don't own them.
Right.
They're our responsibility to
Hmm.
to nurture and water those seeds and look after them and guide them forward with all the knowledge that you can impart upon them so they're ready to go out into the world on their own. But we don't own them.
We don't.
They're free
We don't.
spirits.
And hopefully we do a good enough job that they become
Yeah.
amazing human beings in this society.
Yes, and you know that they're going to reach those teenage years where kind of suddenly the exorcist and the head is turning all around you and go, "Who the hell are you?"
Oh my
You know?
goodness. I have three nieces that are teenagers right now, and teenage girls are they're a little rough. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
tell me about it. Two girls and a boy, yes, and gray hairs have their name on it. Um, but what was always rewarding is the fact that they will go and push their limits, and I always taught them boundaries. You know, if you're going to step over that wall, make sure that you know it's not a sheer drop. You know that
Right.
your choices must have
Hmm.
some boundaries, and you've got to learn to listen to your instincts. And my son one time skipped school for the day and went up to his friend who had this great big huge hanging thing over a ravine, and he put his foot in in the loop, whatever it was, and he knew that no, I don't have a grip on this. I shouldn't do it. And he was backing away, and his friend said, "Well, my girlfriend could do it. Are you a wuss?" So ego came into it because of what he was 13, and he went and did it. He fell 20 feet down onto the ground and
Oh
ended up with
no.
his snapped femur with his leg behind him.
Oh
Right?
my
He picked
goodness.
up and put it in front of him, and he had to be
Oh.
airlifted out. And he didn't listen to his instinct. And, you know, fortunately, he just broke his leg. He didn't break his neck or anything, thank God.
Oh.
But it was a
Right.
lesson for him. It was a lesson. Listen to those instincts. And you
Hmm.
don't have to justify it with anyone else. If
Right.
those instincts say don't do it, don't do it.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it gives him a sense of self, right?
Yeah.
When you know yourself, you're not going to have to prove yourself to anybody or satisfy their ego.
When we do look at teenagers today, you know, especially with the social medias and it's always been at school, you know, the one-upmanship, the mean girls, the mean guys, you know, the judgment, the you know, all of that that's there, and they're not like that when they're young, but somehow when it becomes the teenage years, it you know it seems to come into play, and it's like how much of that is society, how much of that is home, and how do we change that? Because they may grow up with beautiful heart and giving, and then suddenly, as I said, teenage years change, and then it becomes the peer pressure the whole time.
Right. And that change comes from raising multiple individuals to have the base of a very similar, foundation. If we teach early on, have kindness, have a good heart, I think it is going to all have a domino effect that even when their hormones are raging and out of
Yes.
control and their emotions are everywhere and they don't know how to feel, they're going to go back to that foundation no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And you've
they,
got to
like
have
I said,
faith.
that's right. And that's going to, they're going to have a strong sense of self. A lot of our adulthood is spent trying to find our sense of self.
Mm,
And I think that's why with teenagers, they're so susceptible to being peer pressured and changing and wanting to fit in because they're losing or they're missing that piece.
yeah.
But if they
Yeah.
have that before the hormones,
Yes. Yeah.
they're not going to be swayed easily.
And you know, it's also permission to make mistakes.
Right.
You know, now if it comes from malice and cruelty, it most certainly has to be addressed. But you know, if a mistake is made, you know, I always used to say to my kids, you know, as a mom, I can completely criticize that action, but that has got nothing to do with the fact to do with my love.
Hmm.
Never ever use your love as a punishment.
Right.
Right? You love your child unconditionally, but you can also dislike something they have just done. And you can either punish or address the action, but never ever bring that love equation into it. I don't love you anymore because that's one of the cruelest things you can do to a child.
I agree. Don't kill their love.
No, please don't. We need them to be loving adults, and they can only be that if we keep watering that love within them as children.
Hmm.
And And you talk about, if a kid were a president, and yeah, of course, there's all the, highfalutin stuff, etc. But again, it's we have to remember that presidents and people, politicians, and all of that are in service to the people.
Hmm.
And that's something that seems to get forgotten when they get into power. And with a kid, when they step up into something like that, they're doing it for the right reason. So if you can bring that ingredient of that moral compass and the right reason to the politicians that seem to have forgotten that, that might be a very good wake-up call.
Right, exactly. Let's bring back servant leadership.
Hmm. Yes, and that you are there to serve your people, not you have your people serve you. Um, and I think also children are understanding that investing in people and planet for profit is the way to go, because we turned it the other way for so long, profit at the expense of people and planet, and we're paying the price with that
Yeah,
environmentally now. And look at this young Greta, the impact that she's had on the world, and the
right.
steadfastness. She was asked if she was going to speak to Trump. Just said, why? It would be a waste of time, you know? And and she's meant to be autistic. And I say, autistic children are very directional,
Right.
and they're incredibly powerful in what they see and how they feel and what they're doing, because they're not being, haven't got all the other static around them. They're, very directional, and she is. And look at the difference that she's made.
Yeah. Can you imagine her multiplied
Yes.
with kids who have other, perspectives
Yeah.
and other abilities and strengths? If we're working together with, I might not be strong in this area, but somebody else is, and they may not be strong in another area, but I am.
Yeah.
So if we match that up, it's our responsibility as the world's residents
Mm.
to, feed into this society and take care of the world that we're given.
We're all given a gift.
Hmm.
It's our instrument. We learn to play that instrument, and then we seek our orchestra in which to play it in, right? And it's to create that symphony that resonates out in a ripple effect of invitation to others. That onus of what our instruments, some children are born with many instruments in them, and they're going to do many, many things in their life. Some are just born with that one instrument, and that's okay. Again, comparison. Please do not compare your kids with other kids.
Hmm.
Competition, leave it on the sports field.
Right.
Do not have them compete with kids on other levels, because that breeds the judgment, that breeds quite honestly the nastiness.
Hmm.
Compassion is something that our children should always be immersed in, and collaboration, to understand of working together, that will build the team and the community so much stronger. As you said, everybody's got an ingredient.
Hmm.
So this child's got this strength, this child's got this strength. You put them together, hallelujah. And the earlier they learn that, the better it becomes.
Yeah, you're right.
So what prompted you to write this book?
What prompted me to write this book is my nephews. I have three amazing nephews who are beautifully mixed children. They
Mm,
have, they're a melting pot within themselves. And they've been my drive for almost everything since they were born, to be, successful and show them that you can dream and you can make it and be bigger and better. I grew up in a, neighborhood that wasn't the best, but my mom always told me it's wherever you go, it is what you make it.
yeah.
Everybody's saying your high school isn't the best, but it's what you make it. I
Mm,
was the first one in my family to go to a university and graduate. And from that point on, I made myself a promise that I would start, a new path and a new generational line to be that stepping stone for the younger generation, which was my nephews. So I wanted to create this book to give them a book where they saw every representation, every child, every color, and they saw their friends, they saw, their family members, everybody is not the same. I also wanted to create this to re-spark their imagination. I could see the impact that it was making, with being at home and with the virus and the news feeding them so much negativity. I know their hearts, and I could see that it was slowly, that light was slowly starting to dwindle down.
Mm.
So I had free time like everybody
Mhm.
else when we were in quarantine. And one day I just sat and I, took a breather, and this book was birthed. And I had an amazing illustrator who I told her exactly what I envisioned in my head, and she was able to put that on paper as well. And it came to life.
Mm.
So for me, my nephews were super ecstatic about it. They started dreaming again. They are seeing that their auntie can do whatever she puts her mind to, then I can too. And that was the most important thing for me. The second most important thing for me was to give other kids the opportunity to see a representation of themselves as well. And I
Yes.
actually had a third grade teacher reach out to me who used this book as a lesson in one of her class plans. She had given me a message and said, one of my kids came up to me and said, I noticed the presidents look like me.
Mm.
And that was the biggest compliment and accomplishment that I could ever ask for this.
Right.
So,
It's believing in the possibility, not in the status quo, right? It's
right.
you know, I know that Black Lives Matter. I know that senior lives matter. All lives matter.
Mhm.
What we're talking about is the rights.
Right.
If you're a person of color or a different ethnicity, everybody has a right to the equality to pursue, to be treated as equal, and not to have their color bar them from any possibilities whatsoever. And we're seeing that in the ever-changing world. In this, new political realm, we're seeing a lot more women of color, sexual orientation,
Mhm.
and we're seeing, a lot more diversity out there, which
Right.
is in more realism as a reflection on the world and our
Mhm.
society. And so, it's not just the white boys club anymore. We're seeing that diversity there, and people are going, well, if Kamala Harris can do it, I can do it. If Obama could do it, I can do it.
Mhm.
You've seen such diversity of ethnicity on TV. And so they've laid the ground for other people to show children that do not let your color or your background, your poverty, or anything hold you back. Anything is possible if you are willing to pursue it.
Yep. And that is exactly, this is just a small piece of
Mhm.
the bigger picture. And honestly, it was a blessing to even have the opportunity to contribute to that, but it's not for me.
Right.
It's for somebody else. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We want people to believe they can.
mhm.
So many people, my generation and younger, were waiting for permission to place
Right.
value upon themselves, waiting for permission to be their awesome selves. And, it's being for many of us a lifelong journey to be able to step into saying, I am enough, I am
Mhm.
abundant, it's okay. Um, we want our children to believe that right from the word go and not have those barriers, because it stifles creativity when people are
Mhm.
constantly waiting for permission to be right, because they're holding back. We don't want any holding back. We want that abundance of creativity to come forth and all those wonderful ideas, because they will manifest
They
the
will.
blueprint, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a reason why those ideas are sparked in your head consistently. I never imagined myself becoming a children's author so soon. I
Right.
knew eventually it would happen. I would have ideas and I would literally jot them down in my notepad on my iPhone. I have ideas written there and they've never been touched or moved.
Hmm.
I know I'm not the only one. And during quarantine, like I said, everybody got a restart button.
Yeah.
So why not? I didn't have, the financial means. I just did it.
Yes.
And that's what I want to encourage everybody out there. If there's something that is consistently in your mind, you have the ideas for, why not just try?
Hmm.
and worry about the rest of it coming together. You just have to take it one step at a time. Just start. You don't have to have the whole plan figured out. It's great to have goals. It's great to have a big vision at the end, but it's not going to accomplish anything unless you start.
And stop looking for perfection. When
Right.
when it's perfect, I'll put it out. Because I mean, when I first started this network, I look back on the way I did the postings and the way I did everything else at that time. I was navigating. I was learning as I went. And then found a system that worked better as I went. And if you're going to do a book and you're going to put it out there and be self-publishing, your first one might be well received. You go, yeah, I can tweak that again. I can tweak that, or I can add some chapters and I can reissue it out there. But don't hold yourself back waiting for everything to be perfect, because it never will be.
Never. Actually, my first print was very mini and
Mm.
not, I was like, I can't sell this. This is horrible. No one can see it. And I wanted to quit. I really did, but I had an awesome support system around me and somebody reminding me of my why, which was my nephews and children that look like my nephews, and actually children all around.
Yeah.
And it really grounded me to be like, you know what? I can't give up. I'm so close.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it took a month to get it back to where we needed it to be, but that setback actually allowed it to be released on a day that the US president was elected, when
Mm.
Biden was elected. And
Good
I had no
timing.
idea that, exactly right. I had no idea that it was going to take that long for
Right.
the votes to be counted. I had no idea what the time frame was. And it just happened to be the exact same day the book was ready to be released. So I rode that wave, but it just goes back to show that sometimes setbacks are necessary
Mm.
for the bigger outcome. We may not understand them in the moment, but when you look back, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's why. Oh, this is what
Yeah.
I learned. Oh,
Timing is everything. I was given a blueprint 3 years ago, and I keep wanting to implement it, and I have done in stages. And this beginning of this year was going to be the foot to the pedal. And then, of course, COVID happened, and I got exceptionally busy just doing shows of navigating and pivoting and, and keeping positive, etc., through this time period. And so all the other stuff got put on the back burner. And I thought, okay, then 2021.
mhm,
That's when I will pursue it. It's like, don't beat yourself up because what you want to do didn't happen immediately, right?
right.
Or happen in the way that you wanted it. It will just take a breath, allow, and pay attention to the signs.
2020 was a planning year.
Hmm.
2020 was a family year.
Hmm.
2020 was a year to be grateful.
Yeah, there's a redirect here
Hmm.
completely. The universe shook us up to wake us up, for us to step up, change it up, and grow up. And double entendre, grow up as people, but also grow up to a higher vibration. Um, you could either look at this year as being the worst year of your life and restrictions and conspiracies and this and that, or you can look at it as an opportunity of self-discovery, of reviewing, renewing, and redirecting. And
Absolutely.
it's again what you make it, it's what your perspective. And if you look at it from a positive attitude, you'll always find a solution, won't you?
You will. Got to find the silver lining.
Yeah. So now that you've caught the children's book bug, do you have another book coming out or another idea?
I do. It's in the works. It's going to be probably released sometime next year. Right now, it is in idea mode and editing mode, but
Hmm.
I definitely see this one um, coming out next year and a few more after that. So
Hmm.
keep an eye out. They're going to keep
Yes.
coming. I'm not going to stop. And I'm super excited to continuously give these tools for parents and teachers and mentors to use, because I think it's very important that we pour into our youth.
Oh, amen to that. Um, the thing is, when we empower our children and they believe they can, that nothing is impossible, but yes, they need discipline and work, or they need to learn
Right.
these skills in order to do it. Is we're telling them they can, and we open up the can world to them, and
Hmm.
that if I apply myself, or if I do this, there's nothing going to get in my way. I am, I'm going to achieve this through whatever I need to do, obviously with kindness and love as the base of it. But what beautiful human beings we're going to have in the future. We've got to remember we're passing this world to them.
Hmm.
And so, they come from the kindness, caring, and lovingness, and believing that anything is possible, and that there is nothing that can hold us back if we're willing to move forward. Then,
Right.
what a beautiful world we're going to have. So it's essential that we water these seeds and nurture them right now, because we haven't done a great job in the last 40, 50 years, and or maybe longer. And it really is time is that we put the energy where it needs to be. And that's in our children, in their possibilities, in their creativity, but always making sure they come from the heart. Never
Hmm.
let their heart shut down, because that's their guiding compass.
And I think right now the world is in a place that it's ready to receive that.
Oh boy, is it. Needs it.
Needs
It's
it.
hungry
Yes.
for it, hungry for it, and you can't listen to your soul wisdom if your heart is shut off. And it doesn't matter how much you want to intellectualize something, unless you bring your heart, soul, and spirit's intellect into the equation, you're never going to have the whole picture. And our
And you're
children
never going
walk
to be
around with it.
happy.
No, never. Because you're always what ifing, you know,
Or
or
why.
and yeah,
Right.
sit on your butt. That's the only
Mhm.
butt you need to have. And, kids is, well, no, you can't do that. Why not? We do it this way. Why? They're full of whys. And it can be
Right.
very challenging on answering those questions. And sometimes it would be, do you know, I don't know why. Let's discover it together. And just be wondrous, be inquisitive, be exploratory with your children.
Definitely. Let's do it. Now's the time to change.
Yeah,
Why
it
not?
is. Exactly. We don't want another year like this
No.
year. This was a very good lesson year, a very good shake-up year. I do believe 2021, yes, we're still going to have the virus for a while, but I do believe it is the year of opportunity. And I do believe it's the year of all those realizations that we've had that we now can put into practice and move forward with them. It's not a time to go back. There is, people go back to normal. We don't want to go back to normal. Normal
Mm-mm.
wasn't serving us. There
It
has to be
wasn't.
a new norm out there, right?
Hmm. Yeah. It's time for change. It's time for every lesson has a blessing. And I
Yeah.
think this is what the blessing is we have a new set of eyes and we almost had to look at ourselves. 2020 was a mirror.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
listen.
A scary reflection for many.
Exactly.
And
But
you,
you're
you look
right.
at these talent shows and you see these kids come on, 6, 7, 8, they're singing, they're performing, they're doing magic, they're doing other things. And the, the decorum of them, the way they hold themselves together, the way they present themselves, it's just mind blowing. And I don't know if you've seen that wonderful video. A couple of East Indian people put all of these kids together in a collage, playing
Oh,
instruments and singing, and it is so beautiful. This starts off with a couple of kids tap dancing and somebody else tapping a washing machine and somebody else on the guitar like Jimi Hendrix, and the different voices, and they put it all together, and it's so illuminating
oh
because we
wow.
have such creative children. We
We
really
do.
do. Let's give them a platform. Let's give them the stage in life.
Wow. No, I haven't seen it. You'll have to show it to me, but
Oh no,
I can only imagine
it
how
is
how magical it
fantastic.
is.
It's fantastic. And just I don't want this they're only children, what do they know? They know a great
Mm-mm.
deal instinctually,
Right.
right? Not academically, instinctually. And
Hmm.
our instincts is what's going to guide us to understanding the academic. So those instincts need to be alive in us to way beyond. So it's keep that alive in your children.
Yeah, we have to. But there's no other choice now.
No,
This is going to
no.
determine whether or not we live in a failed world or a successful one.
And I want success.
Me too. Yes,
you
me
know,
too.
we've no more of this, greed and ego and opulence. It is about community, compassion, collaboration, creativity. It is about that kindness and caring and love. As corny as it is, it's all about love. When
The
you love
Beatles
who
said
you
it
are,
best, right?
yeah,
All you need
exactly.
is love.
All you need is love. When you love who you are, why you are, and what you're doing, and you love life, you are in a higher frequency, a higher vibration that serves all. So why don't we encourage our children to be there, right?
Let's do
So,
it. Let's do it.
and to letting them know that they can be a president, and let's admit it, a 5-year-old could do better. What has been going on?
Yes.
So it is, let's raise the bar on that. But again, doesn't matter what your color, your sexual orientation, your economic or academic thing, it is about have you got the right ingredients and believe that you can and go after it. And if we teach children that, then there's no stopping them. There's no stopping them.
Exactly.
Just
And
don't
it's
get
not
in
just
in
one
the way.
person. It's
No.
it's teamwork.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we know how well they can play as a team,
Yes.
right?
They
We
can.
know they can do it very, very well. And they, as I said, they don't see uh, the obstacles the same way as we do as adults. So let's see things from their eyes, and we won't put so many obstacles in our own way.
Agreed 1,000%.
So a perfect Christmas gift, right? To give to a child or give to a grandparent to read to the child, to give to parents, it's a perfect gift. How do
Mhm.
people get this beautiful gift so they can share it out? They can give it to their teacher.
Yes,
It's a
definitely.
perfect gift to give to so many people anywhere around kids.
Right. Perfect gift in general. Hanukkah, Kwanzaa,
Yes,
Christmas. You can find it on Amazon.com, which is everybody's go-to for gifts now.
yes, yes.
And you can also find it at www.thebackpackmessenger.com, which is my site. Has all my social links as well at the Backpack Messenger, Facebook, Instagram, and email as well.
Where does the backpack messenger come in? Because it's a neat title.
So that is, I used to actually start as a writer, blogging, and that was my blogging name. I would always have a backpack, but I think that I wanted the backpack to represent the things that I carry, which is my
Mm,
values, which is my character, my family, my background, and I had a message to spread. And so birth the backpack messenger. My message was to encourage, create hope. That's why I call myself a hope seeker,
mm,
um, and empower those who, come from little to know that that shouldn't stop them.
right. Exactly. Exactly. A great title. And yeah, I'm always actually saying, when people are there to help you on your journey in life, and they'll put the skills and tools in your backpack for you to use various ways on your journey. So your skills and tools that you're sharing are the messages
Mhm.
that you want people to have to carry forth with them. So whether this book is for the young at heart that need to ignite their child or for a child, it's a perfect little gift to hand out. And a book is so much more than just a book.
Mhm.
It's a
And
story that carries on telling, doesn't it?
yes, definitely. And this story will carry on telling a lot of things for this world right now and for generations to come.
Exactly. Thank you for writing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
And when you have the next book, you've got to come back and share what that one is.
I
And
definitely will.
it's Christmas time, and yes, why can't a kid be president? And whether it's president of the world or president of their own little society. We've got the series on the Queen's Gambit. Look how chess has suddenly become so popular. So, which is a great game of the mind and instincts and everything else. So it's let's encourage our children to be wondrous and let's
Yes.
wonder with them, right?
Yes,
Well, thank you so
definitely.
much for sharing. Thank you for
Thank
writing the
you.
book.
Thank
And
you.
to please everyone, just look upon it as a beautiful gift to give to a family, to the grandparents, to whoever. But it's a book that maybe you should read as well, because it helps ignite the child and the wonder back inside of you. But by reading it to a child and seeing how the child responds to it will open you up to seeing things differently. So this isn't just a gift to the children. It's a gift to anyone who sees the child read it or reads it, for themselves. And we all need that right now. We all need a loving gift of hope, right?
We do. And thank you so much for your support in advance. And I
Uh,
hope you enjoy.
no, most certainly. Thanks a lot, love. Okay, folks. And so until next time, bye for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. Please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening.